processes that are not sufficiently responsive, which you are supposed to be monitoring? I think that's the question. That how does it happen? How does it come?
There are 4 ministers that have presided over this particular project, 2 presidents that have presided over this particular project, but no result, no results, no consequences. It can be 4 ministers ignoring such a situation. This is the 4th minister, if I'm right. 3 of them are former ministers.
August 29, 2017, the Standing Committee on Public Accounts flays the National Treasury about a multi-billion rand financial payment system. The parliamentary watchdog alarmed at mishandling of the Integrated Financial Management System project, hitting out at the billions of taxpayers' money wasted by top officials that manage a bulk of the taxpayers' money.
It shouldn't have happened that such 54.
I think that's where we should have started, teaching.
Yes.
Because the way we interact with you, and I think maybe we're wrong, to have high expectations from National Treasury. I think maybe that's where we're operating from. That we expect better, and when there are these kind of lapses, how do your officials tomorrow sit that side and then point fingers at other departments?
Incumbent Finance Minister Malusi Gigaba facing the flak for his predecessor's lack of oversight, having to apologize for the failure of internal controls and processes at the National Treasury, which is in the dock for catastrophic failures and delays in implementing a system meant to bring together all government payments on one platform.
We apologize for where we have failed, I think, to answer adequately to the committee. And we will act with urgency to get to the bottom of the matter. There clearly was a failure of internal controls and accounting responsibilities in regard to this. And we are going to re-establish those internal controls.
The current Treasury DG, Dondo Mokgajane, even admitted that all payments for the IFMS system had been stopped with effect from the 7th of August 2017, that the IFMS Project Management Office would now be restructured to probe lapses and amend the way forward.
After uncovering other irregularities, that I've commissioned the internal audit to help me get into the details of what I'm talking about. Stopped all payments, all IFMS payments to date have been stopped, and this has been taking place at least for from the 7th, I think. Yes, from the 7th of August. I stopped all IFMS-related payments.
Barely a few days later, on the 1st of September, Finance Minister Malusi Gigaba cracks the whip. Those seen to be key players in the financial mismanagement saga removed from their positions. Acting head of IFMS, Lindy Budewig, replaced as boss of the controversial project. Jace Nair, the acting accountant general, was one of the people who did not act despite receiving the damning internal audit report, also removed from his position. Treasury's acting chief procurement officer, Skalk Human, also getting the boot. None of this would have been possible without the dogged pursuance of the gross irregularities in the National Treasury by ANN7, a fact even acknowledged by the SCOPA chairman, Themba Godi.
I must say that personally, I learned about this IFMS challenge from ANN7, and I think ANN7 did a great job on this one. There were lots of doubting Thomases, but as the information kept coming in, it became clear that it could no longer be denied and it should be faced full square. And our initial interest in the matter was actually aroused after, watching the expose from ANN7.
The Treasury's IFMS bungle, first exposed by ANN7 3 months ago on the 26th of May 2017, we showed the nation how the National Treasury's own internal audit had flagged the gross irregularities in the 4.3 billion rand project, which would have been used as a national management tool by the Treasury to integrate human resource, payroll, financial and supply chain functions.
We were dismayed with the cost overruns on Nkandla. If anything, tonight we should be horrified, because now we are talking about billions and billions of rands.
If it is one or two individuals, will make a hell lot of noise. But when it comes to other people, we will be quiet. In actual fact, you'll hear the absolute silence within South Africans.
You remember it when that 54 findings are cited, and 49 are considered to be catastrophic. Now, let's remember that this is an internal audit.
There's misrepresentation of capacities, and then payments are made, and there's collusion. So there should be some criminal investigations. The questions should be asked: who benefited? Where did this money go?
This particular report takes us from 2013, when they decided to do the reassessment, for 17 months from them. In that space of time, in a 4.3 billion rand project, they have found numerous examples of mismanagement.
ANN7 blew the whistle on an internal Treasury audit into the IFMS project, which revealed how the National Treasury committed 54 financial misconducts in just 70 months. The audit reviewed all payment processes from the 1st of April 2014 to the 31st of August 2015. The internal audit report exposed by ANN7 flagged a total of 54 IFMS financial processes. 49 of those processes were found to be catastrophic. 5 other financial processes were assessed as high risk. The audit found no business case for formulating of the IFMS Project Management Office. Moreover, there was no budget information and no budget breakdown per financial year. Project costs monitoring was found lacking. Any formal independent quality assurance function was missing. The payment register was incomplete. Project Management Office expenditure was excessive. The report also found ineffective resource management and undefined purpose, scope and objectives of payment procedure. Auditors also discovered inadequate delegation of authority for payment procedure.
Internal checks and balances of the institution, which is working, picked up that there are 54 irregularities, call it that. And these were identified in the internal audit report, and they were brought to management's attention in terms of the process.
The internal auditors of the National Treasury may have done a commendable job, but their immediate bosses had no patience for their nitpicking.
Thanks to the internal audit team as well. I mean, when I was reading the letter written by the chairperson of the audit committee, I was very impressed with the substance and the quality in which it was written. That is what we want, and that is what we expect from National Treasury.
Here's an internal audit. Leave alone what we hear about the national, about the general auditor.
Auditor General.
Yeah, Auditor General. Leave that one, because I'm coming back to it, you suppose. But I want to help you, or you must help me and convince me that you do understand these processes. He's correct. We understand these processes very well, sir. We question every day. Every day we've got departments here. This collective that you see here is quite ready to re-engage into it. But you must be comfortable to give us answers, sir. Here is your report. It says internal audit, when it arrived, it couldn't even find paperwork from Linda there to be able to account for the work that they have done, which is additional to a 1 billion that just disappeared in the department. How do we build the confidence of our people and around National Treasury if you are not able to do this exchange with other scope and feel that Parliament is here to make you to account? That is a problem, sir.
The Treasury's internal audit was ignored by former Treasury DG Lungisa Fuzile, former Chief Procurement Officer Kenneth Brown, MSAS, then Accountant General of the Treasury Acting AG J. Nair, then Chief Director IFMS Hermant Bula, then Chief Director Technical Support Services, Lendi Budewig, and MM Klue, Director of the Integrated Financial Management System. Most of these people left the National Treasury last year. Gigaba now also firing the acting project head, Lendi Budewig.
Here is your report. It says internal audit, when it arrived, it couldn't even find paperwork from Linda there to be able to account for the work that they have done, which is additional to a 1 billion that just disappeared in the department. How do we build the confidence of our people and around National Treasury if you are not able to do this exchange with other scope and feel that Parliament is here to make you to account? That is a problem, sir. That's our people's money, Chief. And that's why I'm not going to walk away. You can be angry, you can be pissed off with me. It's not personal. I've got a job to do here. And the money which you don't worry about continues going. Billions are being spent on a particular project that is not delivering. When Kenny Brown came to us, he spoke so very eloquent and very hopeful that procurement under the National Treasury is doing very well. Now, internal audit says, hey, wait. You are being misled by this department.
The project was initiated by the Treasury in 2005, and 1 billion rand was spent in the first phase. In 2012, the proposed architecture of the project was changed due to technological challenges. Another 1.2 billion rand was spent during the second phase of the project. To date, there is nothing to show for it. The work mostly left to consultants.
Professional services, 1.2 billion. So we're spending 1.2 billion. Am I right that that's consultants? Persons outside of the department, outside of CETA.
Thank you, Chair. The figures in this table, we derived it from a model. So the 1.2 billion was set aside for what we call a system implementer. So this is a professional services or
that's fine.
service provider?
No, that's fine. But what is professional services? Who are they? Is it CETA? Is it yourselves? Is it some consultants?
It will be what we had estimated at the time. We would use consultants to assist us in configuring the solution.
Whatever you're going to use them, it's consultants. That's what we want. Yeah, that's it. PMO is staffed with consultants. And the way it is, consultants are on their own. So I think inadequate monitoring and control from your senior officials would have led to that situation. The monitoring of costs against contracted amounts with service providers was done informally by the National Treasury team. So it was done informally. Easy. As if that was not enough, discussions were held with service providers to ensure that they were also monitoring project costs, which means consultants must now monitor themselves.
But that's not all in the IFMS saga. In June this year, ANN7 exposed the shocking and sordid tale of alleged favoritism by the powers that be at CETA and IFMS that literally handed out the 461 million rand software license contract to Oracle on a platter. ANN7 has in its possession letters from at least 2 bidders in the process who wrote both to SETA and the then Finance Minister Nene, complaining about the botched-up tender process and alleged corruption. But their pleas fell on deaf ears.
Happens that you've basically purchased the components of a motor car. Now you're expecting someone else to come in and start putting it all together. We believe that the software authors have the intellectual capital of their own product, so they should basically be pioneering and spearheading from a project management point of view the implementation cycles of these type of systems. Logical resources are required to put together complex responses that is required in these type of systems. They're not simple off-the-shelf products like a Microsoft Word that you just install, plug and play. That doesn't take a lot of effort. However, when small players have to draft in these experts, that needs to be paid for, and then they are hoping to recoup that through the awarding of the tender. However, when a tender is simply cancelled for no specific criteria, that money is lost and is unrecoverable, which is why a lot of the smaller players do end up going out of business.
And what makes the process even murkier is the fact that then Chief Director of IFMS, Hermant Bula, joined Oracle at a senior position barely 3 months after Oracle pocketed the tender in August 2016.
It is a colossal fraud of monumental proportions. It is clearly astonishing that we could have National Treasury knowing what it knew in terms of the internal audit report, that the project management office had failed to achieve its objectives, that they could then go on to go and procure the system from Oracle, as we now know, in an instance whereby it is clear that they could neither define or describe what they wanted to procure, and hence the risk of cost overruns that will be into billions and billions of rands in years to come. And clearly this contract, I just cannot see how it will stand in a court of law. I think when reviewed, it stands to be set aside.
The Oracle saga now also coming back to haunt top Treasury officials at the Scopa meeting. Parliamentarians asking tough questions and finding no easy answers.
The Oracle debug and related to licensing, how does that one work? We spend a lot of money. I hear, Honorable Tim, hearing that you are saying this project is 4 billion. The cabinet memorandum contains the approved overall budget for the IFMS project of 4.3 billion. However, there was no supporting documentation, records or financial analysis included to justify the expenditure line items related to the 4.3 billion.
The IFMS saga is not the only financial mismanagement skeleton in Treasury's closet. Another draft internal audit, which ANN7 has in its possession, has now blown the lid off Treasury's top 100 suppliers project.
This was an ambitious project to try and bring good value to government in terms of procurement. They decided to start with the top 100. Top people that government does business with, and so it's yet again, I suppose, another dismal failure.
The project relates to the awarding of a contract to CIPS Africa to renegotiate contracts with the top 100 suppliers in November 2015. The bid was to save money by cutting down on pricing inconsistencies for the same items between different national and provincial government departments.
What were the savings on travel? What were the savings on all of these that contracts that were renegotiated and why only the 22 were approached and not the 400? Why was the entire amount paid for the project if they only did a fifth of the work?
Now, we are seeing from the IFMS report, now also the CIPS not doing its job, not actually checking 100 companies but only 22, not going through the proper auditing processes, therefore not saving the money that it was intended to do.
The draft Treasury audit, which ANN7 has in its possession, found that CIPS did work on only 22 of the top 100 suppliers. Only travel, construction, telecommunications and ICT companies were looked into. Despite this, the full contract amount of 25 million rand was paid to CIPS. Moreover, the Office of the Chief Procurement Officer approved and paid monthly CIPS invoices for an average of 1.923 million rand per month. The invoices submitted were not aligned to project deliverables as per service level agreement with CIPS. Monthly progress reports submitted did not align with the agreement. Invoices submitted did not indicate the total hours billed per month, deliverables, activities for the month, or the hourly rate per consultant. No project plan was developed with costing aligned to each deliverable.
Treasury throughout all its years, up until today, has been reluctant to account to Parliament. That's the reality. And we have said it openly to them. It's while you were running it in media. We then became aware that there is a problem. And then when we were explaining to the ministry today that this is what has been happening.
Sadly, almost 9 months since it was done, the damning audit continues to gather dust and awaits action.
When we used to hear the beautiful, melodious, sort of poetic budget speeches from Trevor Manuel speeches. In this case, he is one of the people who have actually created the whole precedence of what happened within Treasury. Why today is he not actually being brought into the fore and being made as one of the examples of people who gave us poetic lyrics of budgets, whereas in the midst of it there was a mess?
As more skeletons tumble out of the closet, calls for a larger probe into National Treasury's financial mess are getting louder.
Maybe we need to call for a commission of inquiry into the affairs of Treasury, because if this is what you have uncovered as the media and we as members of Parliament with all the different structures that we have in government, if we are not able to pick it up and it goes to you, so clearly there is something wrong. So we need to start there first of all and maybe call for an inquiry, a commission of inquiry to look into the issues of Treasury and even specifically into these issues as to how much of money was saved.
There's going to be consequences, yes. In Scopa, where I sit quite regularly, we've dragged in the Hawks, we've dragged in the NPA under the anti-corruption unit, because we want to be very clear and specific that you take the money of the taxpayers, somebody must account.
The recent revelations that the National Treasury wasted 1 billion rand on an integrated financial management system, which after more than a decade it has yet to be implemented, point to a sorry state of our affairs. COSATU calls for a thoroughgoing investigation on this matter, and the people implicated need to be held accountable for this wastage of taxpayers' money. We salute the internal auditors of the National Treasury for doing their work diligently.
Finance Minister Malusi Gigaba assuring that he will take all possible steps to stem the Treasury rot.
It must be the responsibility ultimately of the executive authority and the accounting general. So the buck stops with me. And I take full responsibility for what has to happen in order to ensure that the problems that are here are properly addressed. I have received the DG's full commitment to also taking decisive measures to addressing these, and we will do that. I hope we will not come back to Scopa again. to face the grilling we face today?
The complaint was received especially after ANN7 exposed the IFMS matter. I approached the Minister of Finance to find out, is he doing anything about the matter before Mr. Manyi lodged the complaint. So the minister responded by saying he has commissioned a forensic investigation. And in that particular aspect, I said, okay, I'll be waiting for the outcomes of the forensic investigation. And that doesn't stop the public protector to proceed with the investigation after getting the details. So now I'm expecting that report soon, and after getting it, I will assess what has been done and whether enough has been done, and whoever is accountable and responsible has been dealt with.
The Treasury's fall from grace is documented in its own internal audits, a tale of gross financial irregularities, big cover-ups and possible corruption. But will Gigaba's immediate predecessors, Pravin Gordhan and Nhlanhla Nene, be summoned by Scopa to explain this mess? They clearly turned a blind eye to the goings-on in the supposed centre of excellence. The firing of top 3 Treasury officials by Gigaba is a step in the right direction, but perhaps much more needs to be done to put an end to decades of non-accountability.